An arrest is not meant to harass or intimidate. It should be a last resort. That's the theory, but not always the practice.
From when I got booked in at the police station, I was nothing more than a number, maybe. Otherwise, I was an animal.
The stories are harrowing. People wrongfully arrested. The power of the police used to settle personal scores.
Our law says innocent until proven guilty. I never ever experienced that.
It's a journey that often ends in a maximum security prison, while your life on the outside falls apart.
They arrested me, I believe, without conducting a proper investigation.
Barbara Langbridge owned a small art gallery in Cape Town, was a member of a civic association and a treasurer of the local community policing forum. Never having had a brush with the law, everything changed in February 2018. Barbara went to prison for a crime she didn't commit.
There's everything that happened before this and everything that happened afterwards, and my two lives are, there's like a definite line in between the two that will never be forgotten.
What happened to Barbara could happen to you.
What were you charged with?
I was charged with kidnapping and extortion.
But Barbara, what evidence did they have?
I don't know. We've never been shown the police dockets. We've never seen the statement.
But she has her suspicions. At the time, she was in a personal dispute over a valuable property. She's convinced this was the real reason behind her arrest.
The first thought I had was it was a setup. The case was opened on the same day. They instigated legal proceedings at the High Court to remove my name from title deed of a property.
You're meant to be innocent until proven guilty, but your journey to hell begins out of sight in the cells of a police station. Barbara was first brought here to Milnerton.
Without so much as giving a statement, she was thrown into a filthy cell for the weekend.
There was no light. It's completely dark in there. You lose your sense of time and what have you.
It's something another victim, who asked to be called only by her first name, knows all too well. Muriel was recently charged with common assault. She says it's a trumped-up allegation to get her out of the house she inherited, along with what she describes as a toxic and dysfunctional family.
I was the outsider, and they had been trying to move me out of the house for several years.
She claims she was repeatedly provoked by a young male relative who cried assault when she knocked his arm away during an argument.
I don't consider trying to swipe someone's hand away assault.
The police took her in for questioning, but Muriel says she was only ever asked her name, made to sign a notification of rights form, and was then locked up.
I just felt very violated. I had come down to the police station under false pretenses, that I was not being questioned. I was just going to be put in a cell, and I just had this overwhelming thing that this can't be happening.
She remembers the squalor and the stench of the Randburg police cells, where she says showers smelled like sewers.
Cigarette butts, chewing gum, sanitary towels, shoved into the windows.
Wrongful arrests are common, and the amounts that you and I as taxpayers cough up in civil cases are eye-watering. But research shows that most offending officers just get a slap on the wrist.
It's unclear what, if anything, happened to the police who arrested John Asser.
Other than being arrested illegally and treated like a criminal, because that's how they treat you, they don't listen to any reason.
He was accused of illegally pointing a firearm during an argument around a guest house sold by his fiancée. The buyer, businessman 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝘀, signed 2 agreements totaling 10 million rands. Once he settled the first 8 million, he wanted to move in violation of the agreements.
So the 2 million rands was outstanding, and that's when things turned ugly.
When Tommy approached us one day and said the agreements don't work for me anymore, that's when all hell broke loose.
You think I work for you? You think I work for you?
Tommy and Lala rented the property next door and had started cutting down an interleading palisade fence. John Asser confronted him and their showdown was captured on this video.
Tommy, you wanted to take possession of the house for 8 million rand.
As I was now the legal owner of the property.
So John Asser came out. What happened?
He wanted to be a man, let's not forget, in my property, which was something that I was not going to allow. He then went to fetch a gun, came wavering a gun, and I told my guys who were working on site at the time to remain calm.
This is a different story because the video shows nothing of a weapon being pointed.
What is it? What does the video show? What is that?
A lot of shouting and threats, mainly from you.
Mainly from me.
John denies he was armed. Later, Tommy cut the gate locks and stationed security guards with semi-automatic weapons around the property. He also cut the electricity.
Why did you bring armed security guards onto the property?
It was to protect my asset. I just purchased an 8 million rand asset, which I had to ensure that I have adequate security for it.
I'd say it's quite a solid attempt at intimidation.
Now, they are not people that will require me to get security personnel to intimidate. I'm not certainly one that goes around intimidating people.
Then, to John's amazement, the police from nearby 𝗃𝗏𝗏 arrived to arrest him on a charge of intimidation, assault, and pointing a firearm.
We were quite surprised. When the police arrived, there were literally about 25, 30 of them walking around Tommy up the driveway.
You believe that Tommy used the police to strong-arm you and John into leaving the property.
Well, that was pretty clear that that was his plan, is to use the police. And they were really there in full force, supporting whatever he wanted to achieve.
That evening, John says he was arrested without a warrant and thrown into the 𝗃𝗏𝗏 cells.
Did they take a statement?
No, they refused. I specifically said to them that I had video evidence to show and prove my innocence, and I would expect them to at least look at it.
The video did not save John from a night in the cells, but it would spare him from far worse. Next, Muriel and Barbara's nightmare inside our brutal system was far from over.
And I was now going to 𝗶𝗀𝗆. I couldn't actually believe it.
And things get tense in a heated discussion with Tommy and Lala.
So you've got a fact that you don't want to show us. You've got a video that you don't want to show us.
2 women arrested without a proper police investigation find themselves locked up in 2 of the country's worst prisons. A man narrowly escapes a similar fate.
A harrowing experience for all 3. Here's part 2 of our story on remand detainees.
Each year, there are around 45,000 South Africans in maximum security prisons as remand detainees, waiting for a court date or bail, which can take up to 2 years. For Barbara Langridge, that wait began in the cells under the Cape Town Magistrates Court.
People have no shame. They don't mind, urinating on the floor or worse. Obviously, getting tobacco is a big thing, getting drugs. The shouting, the swearing. I actually saw a policeman beat up a woman in that cell.
Her alleged crime involved a firearm, so her bail was denied.
Do you own a gun?
No, I've never owned a firearm in my entire life.
But evidence didn't seem to matter to the state. She was trapped in the system, now as a remand detainee. From a police cell to incarceration at Cape Town's Pollsmoor prison, one of South Africa's most notorious.
And I was now going to 𝗶𝗀𝗆. I couldn't actually believe it. I just thought, this is, I never imagined in my life that I would be going there.
Her time there began with an invasive body search.
Take them off. Anyway, I stripped off, listened, and they said, get on your haunches. Then I had to hold the front of the booth with my hands up, and you have to open your legs. And then they inspect everything.
The cavity search.
Yes.
Must be the most degrading thing. I see you've even put it in your little booklet here.
Yeah. I think that was possibly the worst thing I've ever been through in my entire life. So, exposed. And I'm a very private person with my body. I don't like showing it off.
Muriel's charges related to domestic violence, which meant she couldn't be released to her home address, so her bail was also denied. After 2 nights in a police cell, she was on her way to Johannesburg's maximum security prison, often called Sun City. She felt like her world had ended.
It's like someone pulled a blind down on my world. You just get packed away in a box. Everything just fades into this nothingness.
Both Muriel and Barbara were denied the very basics for a dignified existence.
So I didn't have anything to eat from, and I didn't have anything to, have a cup of tea. I mean, I didn't have a cup. I didn't have a toothbrush, but this young girl said, "Would you like to use my toothbrush?" So I looked at the few bristles that were left on it, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to accept this help. And I took it, and she gave me some toothpaste, and I brushed my teeth for the first time in 3 days,
Muriel used a tube of hand cream as a spoon.
This is my cutlery set while I was in prison. It's got a hard enough edge to cut pup. Anything that I needed to do to go into my mouth, this is what I used.
You've got an influx of inmates constantly coming in and going out with a system that was never built for them in the first place.
𝗀𝗶𝗀𝗶𝘀 is the spokesperson for the Judicial Inspectorate for Correctional Services, an oversight body of our prisons.
We are there to ensure that the human rights of those that are incarcerated are protected.
But they admit they are powerless and can only advise.
We have one of the best constitutions in the world. How do you have an oversight body that has no teeth?
And remand detainees pay the price, behind bars and when they are finally released.
The premise of innocent until proven guilty doesn't exist in the remand.
After 8 nights in Pollsmoor, Barbara was released on bail. She'd lost everything. She closed the galleries, sold her car and possessions, and because the police kept promising evidence that never materialized, endured another 9 court appearances over more than a year.
Everything I was before then was taken from me. Being a businesswoman, an artist, being creative, being who I was as a human being.
A year later, the state suddenly withdrew all charges and expanded her record. She's now suing the police and the NPA. The video saved John Asser because it showed he never wielded a firearm. He spent only 1 night in police cells. He too is preparing a case against the South African police.
The prosecutor looked at the video and then decided that there was no case against me, and they decided to pardon me.
The Sophiatown police refused to comment. The provincial police have ignored our questions. Tommy and Lila, meanwhile, promised us a different video that he says proves his allegations.
Why can't you show it to us?
I didn't come with that video, yeah? Same way that I didn't come with all the eyewitnesses that were there present on the day.
But not to bring video evidence if you've got it. Doesn't make sense.
But you must remember that I'm not here to be on trial here. I didn't
You're
come
not
here.
on
I didn't
trial,
come
yeah.
here. I didn't come here to be on trial. I came here to deal with facts.
So you've got a fact that you don't want to show us. You've got a video that you don't want to show us.
No, I don't have any.
Despite promising to send us the video, he never did. The police won't comment on Muriel's case because it's before court. Last week, she burned her prison clothes, a ritual performed by the remand detainees she met in prison.
Somewhere between the actual law, the police, and the way that the laws and the police act to mete out justice, our system fails. We have a wonderful constitution that means nothing.
Next month, she must navigate her way through the court system she knows nothing about, with only legal aid as her guide, hoping that even as the police failed her, the courts will be where she can find truth and justice.